Welcome to being here. Welcome to being here on this webinar. Really excited for this session, which is about how to create a winning team for your business, right? I think this is a super important topic. When I think about when I went into business, I was like, yes, I'm going to go into business because I want to make money. I want the freedom and flexibility in my life to be able to do what I want and not answer to a boss. And I want to create a massive impact on the world, right? And the challenge with small business is that that's great. And then we start growing and we start closing sales and we start getting customers. And now I hire a team. And the risk is, though, that I end up being answerable to my team and not to my boss, right? I end up working more hours because I'm trying to manage the team, trying to deal with a bunch of issues going on, trying to hire people once they're in, trying to kind of get them to perform at a high level. And so often I see business owners say to me, "Hey, Ali, it'd be really good to be in business if I didn't have to manage a team." Right. And actually, we want to get you away from that. We want you to get you to a place where actually it feels really good to manage your team. So let me just share my screen over here and hopefully you can see a screen. I trust somebody will type into the chat box if you cannot. Um, but this is the analogy that I love using when it comes to creating a winning team for my business, right? So this is a Formula One race, and this is a pit stop within a Formula One race. In a typical pit stop, this team of people change all four tires, they refuel the car, and they do some basic maintenance on it. In the chat box, how long do you think an average pit stop in Formula One takes? Right? If some of you know the answer, that's fine, but just put in the chat box. How long do you think it takes? So we have Katie who says 5 to 7 seconds. Any other takers? 30 seconds, 6 seconds, 8 seconds, 18 seconds, 3 seconds, right? On average, a pit stop takes between 2 to 3 seconds, right? Can you imagine changing all four tires, refueling the car, and some basic maintenance in under two? And some teams actually have it down to under 2 seconds. For me, that is the pinnacle of peak performance. There's a couple of things that actually I think about here. Changing tires is not hard, right? Most of us on this call can do it. Most of us on this call have had to do it, right? Um, Refueling a car is not actually that hard. But we're at a time when the stakes are so high, in order to do this at the highest performance, it takes a team of 23 people. It takes practice, it takes leadership, it takes us to be in an environment where everybody knows what they're doing, in what sequence, and how they're going to do it in order for us to actually achieve these times. And that's what I think about when it comes to managing my team within my small business. Okay, depending on how well I choreograph the whole thing is a direct reflection on how well my team are actually going to perform. And here's what we want to really cover today in today's webinar. And therefore, here's what I think about. Here's the three main challenges. Challenge number one is like finding a suitable candidate to work in my small business is a little bit like this, right? Where's Waldo, right, in this situation? And I know somebody at the start of the call said, hey, actually, it's really difficult to hire talent. I'm going to leave this image up for 10 seconds and I'm going to see if anybody can actually find where Waldo is here. Feel free to type it into the chat box if you do manage to spot him. 5 more seconds. 3, 2, 1. Okay, so for those of you that got him, let me zoom in. So just behind the oh, found Lacey got it. Okay, perfect. Well done. All right, so just behind the lion over here is where we got him, right? But actually, it's really difficult to find that right person for my small business. Then, when I do find that right person, often challenges appear, right? They don't fit our culture. They don't have the right attitude. Maybe they don't have the skill set that we thought we had. Actually, maybe what we realized is that what we need is actually different to what we were looking for, right? So there's all these challenges that come up. And therefore, the risk is that they end up leaving and I'm back on the hunt for the right person again. And therefore, it feels like a revolving door within my small business. And actually, I spend so much time and energy finding the right person, managing the right person, and then replacing that person, is that my small business doesn't feel so fun as it used to. And therefore, the opportunity when we get this right is that actually what we can change this to is that when I find that person who's an amazing fit for my business, and when they get to know my company, it's like it doesn't matter how noisy and how crowded it is out there, we just connect and our eyes lock. Okay. And then they join our organization. And actually, there's a bunch of people of good, high quality talent queuing up to actually work with us and be part of our team. And when we do onboard them, they are productive, they're successful, they're closing deals, they're making customers happy, they're doing all the things that need to be done. Okay, so if that resonates, if we're hitting on some of the topics of some of the reasons why you are here today, just type in team to the chat box so I know that you are all there and engaged. Once we get a few people typing in team, we shall continue. All right, team, 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 team. All right, excellent. It's good to know that there's some human beings at the other end of here. So let me just give you a bit of an introduction to myself. So my name is Ali Moledina. I am a partner at the Kaizen Consulting Group, and we are a global firm of business and leadership coaches. So today, as of the end of February, we've worked with over 1,400 companies and business leaders to actually play at a higher level, right? In order to be able to grow their business. And a key part of growing their business is actually managing their team. And our vision is to really have a positive impact on the economies, the societies, and the environments in which we operate in. Specifically, a little bit about myself. So I'm a partner here in the North America branch over here, and I head up this side of the business, this side of the world, based in Minnesota. And I've been working for about 10 years in growing businesses, both in the US and in Europe. So I'm originally from England. And I have a lot of experience in terms of leadership, team development, facilitating sessions, working one-to-one with people to actually be able to hit their objectives. Okay, but that's enough about me. I want to cover three important topics today. Okay, three things that I think if you start implementing from tomorrow, and I've set this up in a way that you should be able to implement from tomorrow, I believe that you will see a drastic increase in the performance of your team. These are the same strategies that I use with my one-to-one clients to help them grow their business. The first topic that I want to cover is actually recruitment. Right? When we're looking to assemble a winning team, we need to be really intentional about how we do this. And I think often we can be in the wrong mindset of what we're in when we are looking for a new team member. Because often we start with a job description and we're like, hey, this is what we need doing. So we come up with this job description. We then post it on all the relevant sites, Indeed, LinkedIn, all of the things. And then we wait for these candidates to apply and hope that actually within there we're gonna have a gem who's really looking for that new role, right? And yet the challenge is for the experienced, qualified, motivated person who can communicate really well, they're probably already doing pretty well for themselves. They're probably already in a role, right? And then unless like life circumstances just thrown something out there, they're probably not actively looking for that role. And therefore, what I think about is the mindset we need to be in. And the mindset we really need to be in is that recruitment is a sales process. If I'm recruiting a team member, then essentially what I'm doing is selling my organization and selling me as a person to work for. And I think that changes everything. That now puts the onus and the focus on me to make sure that I can make this role exciting, have some emotional attachment to it, so that people want to apply for this role, so that people want to share it within their network, and actually genuinely find somebody that's a good fit. I often cringe when I see on LinkedIn when somebody says, hey, we are hiring, join our team, and then they have the link, right? And I think about how many people actually click on those links because that's no way would I sell my product like that, right? No way would I say, hey, I'm looking for a business coaching client. Click on this link if you're interested. No, but if we start talking about what a great place we are to work, the reasons why somebody should work with us, then people are more than likely going to stop and say, "Hey, I'm not looking, but this is interesting. Let me see what this is all about." And I'm going to show you the process in which you can do that. Building on this, then, if recruitment is a sales process, then let's just remember one thing about sales 101, right? And actually, let me ask you in the chat box, is when I buy a product or service, is that an emotional decision or a logical decision that I make? All right. Are typically consumers led with emotions or logic? Just type it into the chat box, emotions or logic. Okay. Emotions, 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 both emotions, emotions. Okay, right. Absolutely, it's both. But Sales 101 teaches us that actually emotion typically trumps logic, right? So often what happens is we think about it from a logical perspective, but it's the emotional aspect, the excitement of buying that new car, the excitement of having the new gadget, the excitement of going to eat at that nice restaurant, right? Or the value that I put on eating at a nice restaurant, whether it's a birthday, anniversary, dinner, special occasion, right? Is why I'm willing to pay that money and actually buy the product. And therefore, I think about the job descriptions out there, the way we recruit, and what you've seen and what you've done. Is it led by emotions or is it led by logic? Most recruitment processes. Let me pause and get an answer in the chat box. And I think this is great. We have a lovely engaged group, so let's make the most of it, right? Typical job descriptions that we see, are they led by logic or are they led by emotions? What do people think? Curious to get your we've got both logic, 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 emotions. Yeah, so majority of you going with logic. We've got a couple of emotions on there. Typically, what I see is logic, right? Hey, this is a little bit about us. Established in 2000 and we, sell this. We do that. We're looking for somebody who's very organized, all of these things. These are the benefits we offer. Here's your, benefits, health insurance, dental, 401ks, da 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 da. And it's very kind of descriptive and logical in terms of the way it's all set out. And I wonder what happens. Well, I don't wonder because I feel like I know the answer to this. But what happens when you dial up the emotional aspect of this? What about when you start talking about the big mission that you're on, the impact that you're looking to have in the world, the type of culture that it's like to work with you? Then we start coming from a different energy and a different space. And when we are able to do that, then actually I think it changes the quality of the candidate that starts applying for these positions. Okay. So I want to give you and show you some processes that you can do this. You can turn your recruitment into a sales process, and that actually you can dial up the emotional energy of the way that you are recruiting people. So step number one is just like marketing 101, we always talk about, hey, what is your ideal candidate, right? What is your ideal client? Sorry. And I think about, well, what is your ideal candidate? Who is it, the person that would be an ideal fit for this role? What type of experience are you expecting them to have, right? Do they need industry knowledge or no industry knowledge? What type of personality do you need? What type of softer skills do you need? What type of technical skills do you need? What are the areas that you're willing to train on? And what are the areas that you want people to have before they come in? And to get crystal clear on this, and whilst it seems easy, to get crystal clear on this really gives you an indication of like, hey, this is where we need to go to find that person. These are the things that we can do that's actually going to appeal to that person. I recently worked with a construction company who was looking for salespeople. And one of the things that they had is like, we really find it really difficult to hire within this industry of somebody who's willing to speak to people, have these conversations, and all of the things. So we built up the ideal candidate and no surprise, sales roles. It was somebody who's willing to sell, somebody who's willing to talk numbers and big numbers, people who are willing to get to know their clients in a more detailed way because it was usually their dream home they were working on or something like that. And what they found that actually the people who have these skills are financial advisors. And so what they started doing was looking at where do financial advisors hang out? Where do people hang out who want to go into this industry? And actually getting to network with people in there. And guess what? They were able to find a bunch of people who maybe enjoyed what they do, but it wasn't lighting up their world. They knew they had all of the soft skills. They just needed to give them the technical skills, which were they were willing to do. And actually, what they found is that their retention within the organization was a lot higher than what it was before when they hired from this industry. So it just goes to show how we can be creative about how we're looking for these people. The challenge is, I think a lot of people aren't very haven't really thought out exactly what they want in this person that they are actually hiring. And therefore, I've just got a quick YouTube video which can highlight really what happens when we don't have that clarity in a bit of a fun way. So just put in the chat box if you can't hear the sound when it starts, but we've done a bit of a test, so hopefully you should all be able to hear this when it starts playing. Oh, we've skipped past it. Give me 1 second.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me. That's my resume.
Oh, great. We're looking for someone who has a lot of experience in this work.
I thought this was an entry-level position.
Yes, well, experienced entry level. Experienced is sort of implied. We're looking for someone who's really a team player, but can also work independently as well. So it's really important that the person who fills this role is someone who has a lot of initiative, won't rock the boat, will shake things up, but takes a very cautious approach in making decisions, is a real risk taker, but plays by the rules. We don't like to micromanage around here, but we do require hourly status updates. In fact, I just do it via video chat. I just keep it open. In fact, hey Steve, how are you?
Hey, how you doing?
All right, we're doing the interview right now. Just wanted to update you on that. Say hi to Steve.
Steve.
We're looking for someone who's confident but not overly confident, innovative but traditional, easy to work with but with a bit of an edge. You know, I think reliable maverick is the best way I can sum up this position. This is indeed an experienced entry level position, so the offer is going to reflect that, but we do have a lot of great snacks in the kitchen. Kind bar?
Okay, so exaggerated a little bit, but you get the idea, right? How many job descriptions have you seen which says, hey, must be able to work in a team and work alone, right? Entry level position, but you need this many years experience doing this, right? There are so many contradictions when we read these descriptions that actually puts us off in the first place. And more importantly, what happens is that we don't have clarity in our own mind in terms of who we're looking for. So for those of you that are hiring, it would be great for you to start off by creating a list of specifically what is it that you want and what is it that you don't want, and what are the areas that you have flexibility on, right? So qualifications. I was just working with a client the other day, and they were like, master's degree, I think it was, is a necessity. And I question that. I'm like, it doesn't feel like somebody for the role that we're applying for, actually a master's degree would be beneficial to them, right? Let's just check this. Do we really want this, or does it feel like this is a good thing to say just because 99% of the other job descriptions have this, right? What type of experience are you looking for? Do they specifically need industry experience? If not, what are the experiences that they may have in other industries that may be transferable to your industry, right? What type of personality are you looking for? Are you looking for somebody who is able to like network, be in team, work in large teams, really work the room? Is that the type of person you're looking for? Or are you looking for the type of person who actually can work individually for long periods of time, and that doesn't phase them at all, right? What types of attitude are you looking for? What skills, technical skill set you need, right? Really great to start brainstorming and thinking about what are the things we actually want this person to have. Once you have this, then that really gives you a starting point in terms of where I can go out and actually find this person. Once you have this, you can think about, hey, What can I say? What can I do to appeal to the type of person that I'm actually looking for? Remember, the onus is on you to sell. The onus is not on them to sell themselves to you just yet, right? The second thing then, when we think about emotions versus logic, it's like, why should they work for you? What is so great about your company, your organization, what you're building is that they should come and work for you. And by the way, if you are a small to medium-sized businesses, this is probably the area that you can play in, right? This is the area that you can really dial it up because the great thing about small business is that you have created it to be what you want it to be, right? There's a lot of people disenfranchised with large corporates right now. And this is a great time for us then to be hiring some of the best talent out there. The story that comes to mind when I think about this is the story of, and many of you may have heard this before, of NASA when President Kennedy was touring the NASA facilities when they were on a mission to put a man on the moon. And President Kennedy is introduced to, I'm not sure the circumstances, but was introduced to the janitor who worked in the building. And President Kennedy asks him, so, sir, what do you do? And he says, well, sir, I'm helping put a man on the moon, right? It wasn't about the role for him. It was about the fact that he was part of NASA's mission and he saw himself as part of that mission. And therefore, some of the questions you can ask yourself when thinking about selling your organization is like, why would somebody want to work for you? Right? What is the mission that you are on? And seeing some of the names and companies on this webinar, what I know is there's a bunch of you who are up to some really interesting things. Yes, your business is a source of making money, but your business is also a source for having an impact in the world, right? And that's amazing. That's what excites people. So really talk to that, play that up, and use that as what we would call in sales talk a unique selling point. What's the culture like at your organization? What culture are you intentionally building or not building? For those of you who are interested in culture as a concept, we're not going to go over too many of the details today, but there's a great book by an individual called Tony Hsieh. So Tony Hsieh used to be the CEO of a company called Zappos, and the book is called Delivering Happiness. And in that book, he talks about how he created a culture of customer centricity, of delivering happiness to everybody who bought from Zappos, everybody who worked at Zappos, right? That culture alone that they built allowed them to build a really successful business selling shoes, by the way. They were a retail shoe seller who sold their business to Amazon for like $1 billion, some crazy number like that. So really fascinating book. Okay. And for those of you who maybe you're not the business owner, but you're a manager in a team, right? Why would somebody want to work on your team? What's specific about your team that is really interesting to them? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pause for 10 seconds. I'd love for you to reflect on this question and put it into the chat box. Why would somebody want to work for you? Tell me about the big mission you're on. Tell me about the culture of the team that you're building. Tell me about what you are like as a boss. I'd be love to kind of get your creative thoughts on this. So let me pause for 10 seconds while you do that. Okay, so this is the piece where I'm like, do I just stay quiet? Oh, there we go. We have some coming in. I never know how long to stay quiet for because it takes a while to type this stuff, right? And I'm like, oh, is everybody just waiting for everybody else? So let's have a look. So we've got one answer. Hopefully, we have a few more coming in. So variety of meaningful work and opportunity to grow into the position that is tailored specifically for them. So I appreciate the answer. I think it's a good place to start. And I think that if I read 10 job descriptions, I'd probably see that on a few of them. right? So I wonder if you can define meaningful work, right, to make it really specific to you, right? What meaningful work looks like for me, maybe what meaningful work looks like for you is really different, right? So can you make that specific? Because what we want from this, by the way, and what I didn't say earlier, is that we want a filtration process. Okay, we want a filtration process. For those people who are not a good fit, they're going to look at that and they're going to say, yeah, no, that's not what I'm into, right? I'm going to put that aside. But other people are going to say, yeah, that's exactly for me. I'm going to apply for that role. So it'd be great if you could share what you mean by meaningful work. So we've got flexible schedule, high-end projects, and travel. Okay, so I think in post-COVID, flexible schedule is something that a lot of people play on. I'm intrigued to know what high-end projects and travel is. Okay, are they traveling within the US? Are they traveling abroad? Are they traveling within your state? Okay, if we can get really specific about that, it's a filtration process. For some people, they're going to be like, hey, I don't want to get on a plane for work. I want to stay home. That's fine. They're not going to apply. For the people who that actually is really appealing for, tell me more about that. What are the types of things that I'm going to be doing? Where am I going? All of the good stuff. And high-end projects is intriguing. I think there's a few people that might apply to, but I'm not sure what that means. So really tell me about what you mean by high-end projects. So thank you. You have given me much to think about. Excellent, because I think my business is about creating something for me. And that's fine if it's creating something for you, because that's what it has to be first of all. But then it can expand beyond that, right? Then it can be something about creating something for other people. And by the way, even if it's is creating something for you, what's the culture that you are creating that people would love to work for? All right, now the answers are coming in at a good pace. So let's have a look. So, family-owned small business with a team who cares about each other. We create handcrafted custom cabinets. We are extremely proud of for clients who are over the top happy with our service and product. Amazing. So now I'm starting to build up a picture of what your company looks like. So that's great. And I think you can dial it up a little bit as well, right? So when you talk about being proud, your clients being over the top, happy with the service, right? Like, give me some examples of what that is. Lacey. So someone who would want to work for Lacey's Helping Hands LLC because we are providing a great clean environment, family-friendly environment for our clients. We stand for leaving the world a cleaner place for all of us. We thrive together as a team family. Love that. Now that's specific. Now that is really specific for somebody who is passionate about those types of things. I'm going to be like, yeah, that's the place that I want to work. I think you can still dial up the specificity of it a little bit, but it's definitely on the right tracks. Meaningful work is a euphemism for having visible and observable impact on the business of our clients. Okay, so, and you know what I'm going to say here? What's the impact? Give me really specific impacts. Okay, so for example, Kaizen Consulting Group, on average, clients that we work with see an increase of revenue of 41% in the 12 months that they work with us. Okay, that's when we align to our numbers. So people will be like, hey, yeah, I want to help people increase their revenue. Maybe Kaizen's for me, right? And I'll take this last one here then. So join forces in crafting exceptional marketing campaigns, all while enjoying the process and expanding our knowledge together. Amazing, great. I want to know more about what does that mean, enjoying the process. What type of that's for me, that's talking about a particular work environment. Let me know what that is, right? Um, I think about, let's think about some examples that we all know of, right? So I think about Google, for example. Google has a reputation for creating an amazing company culture, right? What are the things that we know about Google that people say, oh, that's a really cool place to work, right? And you can list this off in your own mind. And people are like, yeah, that seems like a really cool place to work because you can be really specific about it. Hey, everybody at Google gets 20% time to work on whatever project they want to work on. Amazing. At Google, we get, they get free lunches, all of the things that they have. Now, some of them may not appeal. But for those people who it does appeal to, amazing. And that's how specific we really want to get on this. So I hope I've given you a lot of food for thought here. I appreciate you engaging in the chat box, because what it does is that it allows us to bring this topic to life as opposed to just getting a bunch of theory from me. So hopefully now your brains are going, have a pen and paper, write some notes as these ideas that are coming to you. I'm going to move on to the next topic over here. Which is, I'm sorry, this was just cementing some of those points, is performance management. Okay. I'm curious to know, on a scale of 1 to 10, to the extent that people are willing to share, how would you rate the performance of your team right now? Your existing team members, right? 10 being the best team I could ever have. They are absolutely amazing. Everything gets done. We gel well together, all of the things. 0 being the worst team I could ever have. This is really hard work. I'm really struggling. I have bad performers, and I don't see a way forward. Okay. Okay, averaging about 7 here, a couple of 7s and 8. So we're there. Good. All right, 9. Perfect. Excellent. So that's great. Great to see we have some good performing teams over here. I think once you get to that stage in business where you now have a team, particularly when you have a team of 10 plus people, your role now changes to being orchestrator of that team. Okay. No longer should you be uh, doing the doing parts of your business, right? Customer delivery should be your team. Marketing, sales, you're now starting to transfer over to your team. You're now going from a place of being the operator of the business, okay, and the doer of the business, to actually stepping out of the day to day and actually becoming more on a strategic level. This is like the biggest challenge. And whilst truthfully, business coaches like me say, hey, this is how you should do it, this is how you run a business, this is typically the hardest place to go, because one change, right? A key person leaves, a change in the industry, change in interest rates, global pandemic, whatever the external forces are that are going on, and you could come down really, really quickly. And now you need to build yourself back up to pull yourself out of the business. But this is essentially what we're doing and working towards as business owners, right? And therefore, what I want to do is show you a tool where you can actually increase your chances of doing that. But this happens by increasing the performance of the team, okay? And actually getting them to peak performance. And one of the key things about peak performance is that how are we managing that performance? The most common issue that I see come up with my clients when I review how are you managing your team is typically something like this, right? I'll say, what's your performance management process? They'll say, well, in January, February, we set some objectives. Sometimes we have a mid-year review, but that doesn't always happen. At the end of the review, at the end of the year, we review their goals. We see how many of them have actually been achieved. You get a rating between 1 to 5. We pay a bonus on that, and then we repeat. And I'm like, okay, so what happens between January of setting the goal and December of actually doing the review? And often it's like, yeah, so we arrange like one-to-ones once every 2 weeks, once every 3 weeks, but it doesn't actually always pan out because we get busier, and therefore we just talk to each other as and when we need to. And actually, it's really good because I can pick up the phone, or we work right next to each other and we can just bounce ideas off each other. And there's a few challenges with that. Challenge number one is if I'm setting goals and not reviewing them until the end of the year, then guess what? That's just like the New Year's resolutions that most of us set in January. And unless there's some really good people on this call, most of us have probably broken them by now, right? The challenge with saying, hey, we can just communicate whenever we need to because we pick up the phone, use Teams, Zooms, all of the things, which is great, but it means that you're probably working on operational firefighting type of stuff to get through the day rather than on strategic stuff that's going to move the needle, right? And appreciate those people who are kind of sharing in the chat box around the honesty of kind of like getting to this place, right? So hard to get the team to step up, take on new roles and responsibilities, because what I want is to free myself up, And actually, the risk is what actually ends up happening is that I become more busier the more people that I manage, right? But that's okay. That's the natural course of business. And don't let people like me kind of guilt you into saying, hey, you're doing something wrong. This is just the natural journey we're on. It's the next level of our growth. I want to show you the one thing that I think moves the needle in this area. Okay. It's when we start managing performance every 90 days, right? And we have a 30-minute meeting every 90 days that's only focused on strategy, that's only focused on a review backwards of, hey, how did things go? And what are you going to focus on going forward? I'm curious to know anybody have experience or have family members or have friends who are ex-military veterans. Maybe you are yourself. Just type in a chat in the just type in yes in the box if anybody has that experience for themselves or has somebody directly within their network who has served in the military. No. Okay, that's fine. Not too many people here. The reason why, and I never have, but I've had the opportunity to talk to a lot of people who have. And one of the things that fascinates me about the military, actually, and one of business lesson that we can really take from there is that after every operation, after every task, after everything they do a full debrief and a review of how that went. Okay, what went well? What didn't go so well? What are the mistakes that we are not going to repeat again, right? And actually, a client of mine who is ex-military, I asked him, how many mistakes, how many times did you make the same mistake twice in the military? And he said, never, right? Didn't even think about it because of the level of detail that a debrief is done. Thank you very much for that. After action report. I'm assuming that's a technical military term that I'm not aware of, right? I think business is the same way. Every 90 days, I sit down with my team member and I say, okay, these are the goals that we set. What went well? And I've got the list here, right? What went well, right? What have you done that you've achieved? What is working for you right now? And actually, what hasn't gone so well, right? And the areas that we're focusing on that haven't gone so well, it's not about blame, it's not about criticism, it's about genuinely understanding, hey, what isn't working right now? Where do you need support? Where do we need to course correct? Where do we need to change tactic to ensure that we don't get to the end of the year and the same stuff is happening? All right. And ask them, get the ideas from them before you give your feedback. And then when you give them feedback, remember that it needs to be based on real data that you have, not feelings that you're getting, not subjective stuff, but actual quantifiable data, behaviors that you can put up as a mirror and say, hey, this is what we're seeing, and these are the things that we need to change. All right. These 90-day reviews are, I think, a game changer for any business owner. Does it require a level of investment of time from you? Absolutely, right? Some people get put off by this because it's like, hey, I have a team of 15 people. That's 15 times that I need to do this. Yes, absolutely. Is it a worthwhile investment of your time? I genuinely believe so. I genuinely believe this is one of the things that are really going to move the needle. Once you're done with the meeting, okay, you send the minutes over, you have an agreed set of action points, and you know what needs to be done. The key thing about this meeting, though, is that you're not only doing the post-mortem of what's happened the previous 90 days, you're also looking forward to the next 90 days and say, okay, so what's the plan of action for the next 90 days? And I'm going to give you a template here, or show you a template here that I use with my clients, and my clients typically use with their team members. Okay. So I see your question, Lacey. I'll come to that in just a second. So I want to talk you through this template over here. So first of all, we'd have an objective that we've got. So whatever objective you've got for your team member for those next 90 days. The second part then is the criteria for success. Okay, how do you know whether that objective has been met? I'm just going to use a sales example just because it's the easiest one to put numbers to, right? But the criteria for your success is that you have closed X dollar value of sales in the next 90 days. All right. Or X number of deals within the next 90 days, for example. Right. And then what we want is a KPI, a key performance indicator. Now, I want to make clear the distinction between a key performance indicator and a criteria for success. The criteria for success is I come to the end of the 90 days and I can tick, yes, it's been done, or no, it has not been done. The KPI is that I can review this within the 90 days and say, hey, is Ali going to be on track to close this number of sales, or is he not going to be on track? Right. So if I'm talking sales specifically, a KPI could be Ali has 4 sales calls a week, right? Ali has, goes to 3 networking meetings a month in order to achieve this, right? I know if the activity is being done, then chances are the objective will be met. If the activity is not being done, then the activity is not going to be met, right? And therefore, what we're doing is we're measuring this individual on the KPIs throughout the 90 days. So you're meeting quarterly, but maybe it's once a week, maybe it's once every 2 weeks. There's a 10 to 15-minute meeting where we just focus on KPIs, where we're just monitoring KPIs to see whether they are on track or not. We're then going to create a set of action points then of like, hey, this is what needs to happen. Who's responsible for them, right? If it's happening in terms of teams, you can budget time to execute, budget the dollar amount that they need for it if there's anything. And then the nice thing over here is that what I do is I split the quarter into weeks. Again, I've got 4 weeks for every month. And then you can say, hey, this action point I'm going to do in week 1. This action point is going to be from week 2 to week 5. This action point is going to be on week 7, for example. So it's very clear on what needs to be done. So anytime you catch up with your team member, you can be like, hey, this is what we agreed for this week. Where are you on that? How is it going? Are you behind? Why are you behind? Are you ahead? Great. What else can we do? So you're able to talk about things from a very strategic perspective. The idea behind this template is that it keeps everybody going in the direction that you want them to go. If you have a team of 15 people and you have 15 90-day plans broken up, which all feeds into your organizational goals, then that means your team are now going towards the same direction and you can manage people on this. If this template is useful for you, you can scan this QR code over here. This QR code will take you to a form. Complete the form. You can download the template for yourself. Like I said, this is something that I use with my clients. We use it regularly. It's useful for us. If you think it might be useful for you, feel free to do that. I'm going to leave that up there. I'm going to answer some questions just as they've come in whilst those people who need to do that are doing that. So Lacey asks, can you do a team performance meeting? If no, why? Absolutely. And I just want to make sure I understand your question. So what I'm getting from your question is that instead of doing this one-to-one, can I have my whole team together and do this? Yes, you can, right? So think of a football team. Yes, you can. You would get the team together and you would tell them, hey, this is what's happened the previous 90 days. This is what's going forward for the next 90 days. However, if you have a team of 10 to 15 people, they're all going to be working on different things, right? Some of them are this area, some of them are another area. And what I want to do is almost, I think this is a British term, so hopefully it resonates, but manage them, right? I want to give them that attention to say, look, Ali, this is what's going well for you. This is not going well for you. Lacey, this is what's going well for you. This is not going well for you, right? Person X, this is what's working. This is not what's working. So you're able to give them that individual attention so they're able to course correct, because a lot of people will have their own individual challenges. A lot of people will have their own individual wins. Okay, so hopefully that answers that question. Feel free to do a follow-up if it doesn't. What are more examples of KPIs? Okay, I think the easiest way to think of this, let's go out of the business world for a second. Let's think about 2 examples from life. So one example is I, like many of us, may have had a goal at the start of the year, is that I'm going to lose X number of pounds or, whatever the fitness goal was, right? Now, you may say to me, so Ali, so if you wanted to get an idea of whether I was on track, let's just say my goal was to lose 20 pounds, all right? There's two things you're going to ask me, right? You're going to say, hey, Ali, how many times have you been to the gym this week? Right? Or you're going to ask me, hey, what's your food been like? What kind of nutrients have you been eating? Now, if I tell you, hey, I've been going to the gym 4 times a week, I've been strength training 3 times, cardio once, I've been doing I've been eating grilled chicken, I'm trying to act healthy here, drink lots of water, all of the things, right? You're going to say, hey, Ali's probably on track. He's probably going to get there or thereabouts in terms of his goal. If I say to you, hey, I went to the gym twice since January 1st, and my diet's been really good, I've been eating burgers and fried chicken, then you're probably going to be like, no, based on that, he's not going to on these health goals, right? So the inputs, the KPIs are the inputs here as opposed to the outputs. So now take that analogy into business. For your specific business, what are the things that you can measure that you know if you do consistently, the outputs will take care of themselves? All right. Hopefully that answers that question. Kem, feel free to put any follow-ups in the chat box and we can handle that there at the end. Okay, for those of you who haven't managed to download that template, if you need to, the QR codes is just underneath me over there if you still need to do that. So we've looked at two concepts. Concept number one, recruitment is selling. Concept number two is around this managing performance. Okay. Concept number three then that I want to talk about is upgrading performance. Okay. I have an existing team, right? What are some of the practical things that I can do in order to get them to play at a higher level, right? Now, when I think about this being an individual framework, right, for each individual team member that you employ. And you can literally do this as an exercise right now. So this diagram that we've got the horizontal axis is that you are subjective, but you are thinking about, hey, how much effort does each individual put into their role? Okay, so how much effort do they put? And the vertical axis is how competent are they at their role right now? So we're measuring effort and we're measuring competence. And typically, we can categorize our team members into one of these four quadrants. So low competence, low effort, right? So they're not making an effort, and technically they're just not very good at what they do. All right. I call these categories, I call this group of people the icebergs. And I'll talk about what we can do with them in just a second. But these are the icebergs. We're just not seeing enough of them. We're not seeing enough output. We're not seeing enough input right now. The second thing then is people with high effort and high competence. High effort, high competence, they are your superstars. They're doing the things that they need to do. They are achieving the stuff that they need to achieve. And these are your next generation of leaders, essentially. Ideally, we want everybody in there. Okay, let's have a look at Troy's question. Effort is hard to measure. Hours is easy to measure. How viable is using hours as a measurement of effort? I'm not gonna lie, Troy. I've been in corporate jobs in the past where I've put a lot of hours in. I'm not convinced my effort was up there, right? There were a lot of FaceTime hours. Okay, maybe I shouldn't admit that on something that's being recorded. But I think hours is one way to measure effort. I don't think it's the only way. I hear you. It's subjective, and maybe effort can be replaced with attitude, if you like. But I think you get a sense, right? If somebody is constantly coming in late, right? Somebody constantly phoning in sick, probably the effort isn't there. If they're turning up on time, if they have the right attitude, if they're trying to do the things that you're asking them to do, then for me, that demonstrates that the effort is there. Okay. So I think based on your world and your specific business, think about the behaviors of those people who are putting effort in. What are they typically doing? And I think they'll fall into one of those buckets. So hopefully that helps. The other two quadrants then. I am putting in a lot of effort, but I don't have the competence. These people are trying really hard. They're trying to do the things they're doing. They're showing up on time. They're coming in early. They're leaving late. They're doing the stuff, but they're just not delivering from a technical basis. They're not competent at their role. And then the final quadrant we have is the problem child, right? The problem child is they're actually really good at what they do. They're technically competent, but they just don't put a lot of effort in. And there's a lot, there's a lot more they could be doing, but it's just not happening right now. Okay. And we have our It's Bart Simpson, the problem child here. So what can we do? So what I like to do is sit down with my clients and say, okay, draw up this quadrant and put the initials of every person in your team and see where they sit. And it's nice just to do a little bit of an audit of the team to be like, all right, this is what the team looks like now. Now we need to come up with an action plan for each team member. There's different things we can talk about. I'm going to give you one strategy for each one just to kind of like get ideas going in your mind. So the first people, the icebergs, okay? Low effort, low competence. With these people, something significantly has to change. Okay. It's a very direct conversation and it's a maybe change in their surroundings. Maybe you're going to change their role. Maybe you're going to change their physical surroundings if you work in person, but it has to be something that's drastically different to what they're doing now to see how they respond. And if they step up, that's great. But if they still don't step up, unfortunately, what are these people doing in your organization, right? If they're not putting the effort in and they're not competent, then ideally we should be helping them find a new role and move on to their next job because this is just not for them, right? So that's one or two strategies you can deal with your icebergs. Your workhorses, now they're putting in the effort. Technically, they're not competent. In order to move them into superstar role, there's two things you need to do. Number one is give them the technical training that they need. Often, this is just a technical element that they don't have, and quite often they don't easily admit that they have this gap, right? So this is where your quarterly reviews come in because you're having these conversations when things are not going right. But once you know what technical training they need, you provide that training. But that's just step one. A lot of people are good at providing the technical training. Step two, though, the thing that's going to like be the bridge to help them perform better is that you then help them implement the technical training in their day-to-day jobs. That piece there, I believe, is the difference from them staying a workforce to actually getting into superstar mode. And then you have your problem child. Your problem child, technically competent, not putting in the effort in. Usually they're a little bit bored, right? So often what we need to do is challenge them, give them a new challenge, up their goals, right? Depending on the culture of your organization, but really kind of like spur them on a little bit. It's almost like that situation. Hey, is that all you got? Is that all you're gonna produce this month? Come on, you can do better than that. And we're really kind of like pushing them for them to feel like, maybe I'm not performing as well as I need to be. Maybe I need to up my game, right? Think of like kind of like the banter you have on the sports field, for example, right? And once you're able to kind of like unlock that side of it, what you'll see is the effort comes up and their competence really goes into high quality deliverables to get them into that superstar model, right? So think of this as a framework for you to think about what you need to do with each individual. The challenge is when we start talking about managing teams, we often think it's a one size fits all. We often think it's like, oh, if I do this, this will change stuff. But actually, people have their unique challenges, and this helps us organize how we're going to group these challenges and how we're going to deal with it, right? So we're coming to the top of the hour here. So let me provide you with a summary of the three concepts that we've discussed. We'll then pause and take any questions if you have them. So number one, remember the mindset. Recruitment is a sales process. And when recruitment is a sales process, what that means is that as I'm going to assemble my team, I need to sell the role. I need to sell the organization, and I need to give people a good reason to put up their hand and say, hey, I'm actually interested in working here. I'm going to go to the effort to do up my resume and go through this interview process with you. All right. So, how are you selling the role? Number two, once they're in the door and we've assembled our team, regular performance reviews, which are forward facing. A good cadence is every 90 days. Okay, we meet, we review what's happened previously, and we focus on what's going forward. But within those time periods, we're also meeting regularly, weekly, bi-weekly, where we're focused on KPIs and we are tracking where we are going and how far along we've gone with those objectives. And then concept number three that we looked at is how do we deal with underperforming team members, right? We've got two metrics. We've got competence, we've got effort. We're going to see what individual support does our team member need and provide them with that support to actually get them into that superstar category. Once they're into that superstar category, remember, these are your next generation of leaders that are going to be in your business. So I hope that has been useful. I really appreciate the level of engagement that you've shown in the chat box, because I feel like what we've been able to do today is really kind of like make it specific to a few of your businesses that you've been able to engage. So I'm hoping that's been useful for you. I'm going to pause now for any questions that you may have. If you want to download the template, I've got the QR code back up on the screen there. If you've got any questions for me specifically, I've got my email address on there where you can reach out. Otherwise, I really appreciate the time that you've spent. I wish you guys all the best in creating that winning team for your business. And hey, this is a journey. We get better as we go along, and hopefully you've got some frameworks to actually take it to the next level. So with that, I shall pause for any questions that may come through. Thank you all for your kind words in the comments.
Thank you, Ollie. This was fantastic.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Have you happened to send this template to Steph or the link?
I will do.
Okay.
I will get both of them sent over,
Okay.
and then I believe they will be distributed.
Perfect. Okay.
Excellent.
Just in case, I saw we had someone who was a call-in. So
Got it. Okay. Yeah. Somebody says, do you have a link for those that don't have a QR code? I do have a link actually. Let me start my share and I will get the link. Apart from that, I don't think we have any specific questions. So 1 second, we do have one. Okay, so here's the link to download that form if you want. So Chad says, there is a fine line between monitoring effort and micromanaging. How do you ensure you stay on the right side of that line? So Chad, I'm going to be honest here. I think I have a different perspective to many of the things that people are reading out there, right? And I would say that actually, if there's one thing that I'm going to micromanage in my business, it's the performance and the activity of my team, right? And I know that's controversial in today's environment, right? But what's interesting is I think about a sports team, and I think about a football team, for example, and the coach who's coached that team. They've been training for preseason all week, right? They've discussed the strategy before the game. Every quarter or at halftime, whether you're talking about soccer or football, they're discussing strategy. But guess what? During the game, I don't see the coach sitting back going, all right, let's see. I've given them the tools they need. Let them do their thing. I don't want to micromanage them. I don't want to interfere. I'll speak to them at halftime, right? Actually, what they're doing is they're on their feet, they're shouting instructions, they're encouraging, they're saying what needs to happen, and they are constantly providing feedback and giving directions to their team. And I personally think a business is like that. I don't think there's an element of micromanaging when it comes to performance, particularly for my small business. And actually, there's a great book called It's Okay to Be the Boss. I don't remember the author's name. And he talks about actually the biggest challenge we have in corporate America right now is that what he calls under management. And he says the problem was in the kind of like 70s, 80s, we had this element where bosses were almost like, I don't know what the right word for it is, but I think of the analogy of like a whip at a horse, right? It's just like work harder, do the things, do the things. And work then was more kind of like production line type of stuff. So it was very much churn it out. What happened is, as we got into like the 2000s, is that actually this was seen as a bad way of doing things. And therefore, we wanted more collaborative work environments, which is great. And the challenge is that actually what's happened is that now we have this problem of under management. So is there a balance? I think there is the balance. I think we're on that wrong line of balance right now. I think it's an element of like setting out directions, supporting our team members, checking in on them, right? But we can still be a nice person when we do that. It doesn't mean we shout at people and disrespect them and, you know, tell them they should choose work over their families. I think it's possible to be a good boss and actually manage at a really high level. And I think that's what I believe is that we should all be going for. So a little bit, maybe, no, not controversial. There's people agreeing. Okay, great. And thank you very much. You've got the link to something there in the chat box. So that's amazing. Great. Thank you for that. Excellent. Otherwise, I think we have all the questions answered.
I think so as well. Go ahead and stop the recording. Thank you guys so much for